Why would a founder, willingly put their house, their life savings, and their personal credit on the line just to sell tacos out of a food truck?
It seems completely irrational when you look at the raw risk, but that exact dynamic is actually the foundation of our entire economy.
Right, yeah. So today we're doing a deep dive into the architecture of business ownership. We're pulling from textbook sources and instructor notes covering Chapter 4, which is all about organizational forms.
Yeah, we're looking way past the standard legal checkboxes here.
Exactly. The mission today is to understand how these structures basically engineer a company's financial leverage, its tax burden, and, the founder's personal exposure.
Because the structure you choose on day one is going to dictate exactly how you can maneuver on day 1,000.
Well, let's start with just the sheer volume of these choices. I mean, 72% of all U.S. businesses are sole proprietorships, which is wild to me.
It is a massive majority, yeah. And there's this profound psychological irony there. Founders are taking on unlimited personal liability just to avoid, like, the hassle and a couple $100 it costs to file some paperwork.
Meaning their personal bank accounts are legally tied right to their business debts.
Exactly.
Hmm.
That is the ultimate trade-off for absolute frictionless control. But the mechanism of unlimited liability is unforgiving. I mean, if the business defaults on a loan, creditors don't just stop at the cash register.
They keep going.
Oh, yeah. They can legally liquidate the owner's personal assets to satisfy that debt.
Let me push back on that, though. I mean, how often does a local food truck or, say, a freelance graphic designer actually get sued for enough to lose their house? Isn't the terror of unlimited liability slightly overblown for a small side hustle?
Well, for a freelance graphic designer, perhaps. But for physical operations like that food truck you mentioned, one severe food poisoning outbreak or a traffic accident involving an employee can instantly generate a seven-figure liability.
Oh, well, yeah, that makes sense.
Right, and without a legal barrier, the owner is completely exposed to that ruin.
So when that exposure gets too high, or maybe a founder just hits a growth ceiling and needs outside capital or complementary skills, they have to bring in help.
Which usually means a partnership.
Right. And I understand the basic mechanics of pooling resources, but what actually happens when two general partners fundamentally disagree on the company's direction? Like, how does the law handle a deadlock?
This is exactly why a rock-solid partnership agreement is required right from the outset, because legally, without one, general partners share equal control and equal unlimited liability.
Wait, regardless of who actually caused the issue.
Regardless, if they deadlock and there is no buyout clause or tie-breaking mechanism in their agreement, the only legal remedy is often just dissolving the partnership entirely and liquidating the assets.
That sounds like an absolute nightmare.
It really is.
Which I guess explains the appeal of limited partners.
Yes.
They supply capital but are legally barred from daily management, right?
Right. Precisely. Their risk is capped exactly at what they invested. So it allows the business to scale by absorbing outside capital without, diluting operational control.
Okay. But eventually scaling demands a more structural defense. Which brings us to our word of the day, which is limited liability. We always hear about the corporate shield, but how does it actually function in practice?
Think of it like a watertight bulkhead on a ship. By incorporating, you create a completely separate legal entity chartered by the state.
Okay.
So if the business compartment floods, say it goes bankrupt, the bulkhead seals. Your personal wealth compartment stays entirely dry.
The corporation absorbs the blow.
Exactly. Furthermore, this structure provides the strategic leverage required to raise venture capital. Institutional investors will really only inject funds if the entity is legally distinct.
But the traditional C corporation has a pretty massive structural flaw, right? Double taxation.
Oh, absolutely. The entity is taxed on its profits, and then the owners are taxed again when those profits are distributed as dividends.
Which is why we see the dominance of LLCs and S corporations today.
Yeah.
But what is the actual mechanism that lets them dodge that double hit?
It's called pass-through taxation. Instead of the business paying taxes at the corporate rate, the profits literally pass through the entity directly onto the owner's personal tax returns.
So the business itself pays no federal income tax.
Exactly. You get the watertight bulkhead of a corporation combined with the singular tax efficiency of a sole proprietorship.
That completely explains why they are the default for modern setups. But what happens when independent businesses need leverage without merging? Take Ace Hardware, for example.
Ah, right. That's a cooperative. Essentially, you have independent store owners pooling their purchasing power to negotiate bulk rates so they can actually compete with big box retailers.
Or consider a joint venture. like when two major automakers spin up a temporary shared entity exclusively to develop electric vehicle batteries.
Right. They get to share the R&D risk for one specific project without fully integrating their operations.
So you've optimized your tax structure and mitigated risk. But let's say you hit a geographical ceiling. You want to scale from one successful location to 500, but you lack the capital to do it yourself.
How do you clone your business without taking on massive debt?
Exactly. And that is the exact problem franchising solves.
You license your proven operational system and brand to independent franchisees. They provide the capital and take on the localized risk, while you, as the franchisor, extract a royalty.
It's an incredibly efficient mechanism for rapid market penetration.
Which is why we're seeing a massive boom in senior care franchises right now, specifically to meet those predictable demographic shifts.
So choosing a structure isn't just paperwork. It's an architectural decision about how you want to balance control, tax efficiency, and personal risk.
Yeah, every single model requires sacrificing one of those elements to maximize another.
Which leaves us with a fascinating dynamic for the future. We've talked extensively today about needing partners or massive corporate structures to scale human capital and resources. But if artificial intelligence eventually allows a single founder to execute the work of an entire 50-person agency, will the traditional multi-partner corporation become completely obsolete? Something for you to mull over. Until next time.